Good morning. It's time for another morning Bible study, and I'm your host, Logan McCulley. Today we're going to be getting into Proverbs 13. Before we do that, I just came back from winter camp. It's a Boy Scout thing, so Levi's and Boy Scouts. And man, I'm going to tell you what, it was cold. It snowed, it sleeted, it rained, and we tented throughout all of it. Even one of my adult friends, one of the other parents, his tent completely failed. Water ran down on all of his sleeping gear, and it was wet, it was damp. He goes, it's okay, I'll just let it dry out today, and then tomorrow, I'll sleep again. Well, he put all the stuff out, and then we went to, flag and whatnot, and then it rained. It rained on all of his gear, so his gear was damp. It rained on top of his gear, and then now it's soaked. So he didn't leave, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if I would have stayed after all of that happened, and he just slept in his van that night. Honestly, solid dude. I don't know if I could have done it, but the kids had a great time. We had a great time. It was fun. It was cool because we went to an adult class and we got to hang out and play, and it was almost like we were also at summer camp or winter camp. Today is my Sunday. I'll be going to church here in a little bit. It is, what time? It's 7 in the morning. I woke up early, been doing stuff around the house. I was like, you know what, today and right now is a great time to hop into Proverbs 13. Now we're still in the part of Proverbs that is contradictions, and it shows you different things, comparisons. We'll do 13, 14, and 15, and then it moves into a different kind of Proverbs where it starts making more comparisons. But let's go ahead and we'll jump into verse 1 in chapter 13. A wise son heeds his father's instruction, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. So the son who is wise listens to his father's instruction. Who is our Father God? God gives us instruction. And if you're wise, you listen to it. A scoffer does not listen to rebuke. So it's not saying that an unwise person, so I guess that's the inference there. It's saying, an unwise son does not heed his father's instruction. Then the flip side to the verse, not just the opposite to the first part of the verse, is, but a scoffer does not listen to rebuke. Then you're saying to all of our people that are in our lives, if you have a scoffer and you don't listen to rebuke, you are a scoffer if you don't listen to people who rebuke you, like rebuke your brother. It's important that when you hear that feedback, you kind of flag it and you go, all right, I need to kind of dig into what they're saying and take some validity, see if there's any validity in what they're saying, because people aren't going to say that just for no reason. What is that reason is a good question. Verse 2, a man shall eat well by the fruit of his mouth, but the soul of the unfaithful feeds on violence. In verse 3, he who guards his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens wide his lips shall have destruction. Both two verses are talking about mouth. Breakdown. The parallels here are implied. A man of good words prospers, but a man of evil words, thus unfruitful to God, provokes violence against himself. Now, I hear that, and I read that, and I go, I am guilty of that in scenarios like at work. So working for a bad hospital system, or a hospital system that uses and abuses its employees. Because I believe in the mission of helping people. So I'm a nurse, right? So I believe in the mission of giving good health care and getting them the resources that they need. However, when I've worked for poor healthcare systems or jobs or companies that take advantage of their employees, that just try to shove off responsibility onto the employees, that there is no managerial structure or there is no managerial accountability, that all of it's on the employees, like, oh, you got it, we're not even going to be there. That's where I start talking bad about that company. Even though I may believe in the mission of taking care of those patients, I am guilty of giving that, what is the correct word? May have evil words for certain corporations and stuff. Should I have? Obviously I should. It says I shouldn't do that because it's unfruitful. It doesn't help the situation, and we know that, right? We know that logically, but acting on it daily is something that I suck at. I really do, because like, I'm not afraid of giving you a hard truth, but is it a hard truth to say, well, this company sucks? I feel like a harder truth then, like let's say I'm in dialysis, is to say, yes, this company sucks. However, how do we improve it? What are the actionable items that we can do to make it better? Because dialysis isn't going anywhere. These patients aren't going anywhere, and they need their dialysis. They need the help that we're giving. How can we be more effective in that? Man, I really do enjoy these Bible studies, because it definitely always hits me at something. Key takeaways from verse 2 and 3. But the soul of the unfaithful feeds on violence. Don't feed on violence. He who guards his mouth preserves his life, but he who opens his wide lips shall have destruction. Shall have destruction. Verse 4. The soul of a lazy man desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. The breakdown. Ooh, it goes back to Proverbs 6:6, talking about the ant versus the sluggard. The ant is an example of industry, diligence, and planning, and serves as a rebuke to a sluggard, a lazy one who lacks self-control. Wisdom sends a lazy man to earn from an ant. So, in this verse, I'm going to read this verse. The soul, verse 4, this is 13 verse 4. The soul of a lazy man desires and has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. There are a lot of dreamers out there, but you got to put the action into the dream to make it a reality. Verse 5, a righteous man hates lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and comes to shame. And 6, righteousness guards him, whose way is blameless, but wickedness overthrows the sinner. Now those two are put together. A righteous man who hates lying. We should hate lying. We should not lie. We should be truthful in everything we do, even though if it puts us in a bad light. I think that's important, especially when we are the ones who are compromised in that truth. But a wicked man is loathsome and comes to shame. Again, I feel like this always comes back to God knows what you're doing. God knows your heart. Eventually, other people will realize that as well. It will become known. So, what are you doing? Is it something you should be doing? Keep that in mind that like everything you do is known right now. What you look at, what you think about is known. I think that, I don't know how to verbalize it, but I feel like that's such an important fact. And to be used in how you think about all things. In verse 6, righteousness guards him whose way is blameless, but wickedness overthrows the sinner. Taking the fact that everything will be known and making sure that everything that you do and all the heart problems and the thoughts and everything are on board and on track and following Jesus. I think that was how you would be one of these blameless, and then how righteousness would guard you. I think. Don't quote me. Don't quote me, but I'm going to record this and put it up on the internet. I know. Verse 7. There is one who makes himself rich, yet has nothing, and one who makes himself poor, yet has great riches. I hear this, and I immediately think of people who don't hold tight to the things that matter, like family, friends, experiences, and however, sacrifice all of that time and all that effort on things like money or get work to buy things, to have like the big house, to have the nice car, to have the crazy cool truck. That stuff's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, tools are important, but if you have the tools to be able to do what you need to do you need the nicer tool? I think of like, I have a pickup truck. Do I really need like a new 4-wheel drive 250 with leather seats and all? I don't need that. I would like to have a 4-wheel drive one day, and that eventually I think will happen, but I don't need the nice new one right now, and there's no reason for me to go buy it. I'm not in the position to own it. I could go work a bunch of hours and hours and hours at work, and I could buy one, but is it what I need? Probably not. The actual breakdown is, the same pretense is presented in two contrasting weaknesses. One pretends to be rich, while the other pretends to be poor. In contrast, men should be honest and unpretentious. So, I got that one wrong off the cuff. This is just talking about how you present yourself. You should just be honest in how you present yourself. And now let's reread it in that light. There is one who makes himself rich, yet has nothing. Makes himself look rich. I feel now, looking at it that way, you say, okay, well, these people that take out loans and, spend every dollar they make just to have that nice truck and to have that bigger house, even though if they missed one paycheck, it would all collapse. Built on a house of cards. And then the second part of that verse, and one who makes himself poor, yet has great riches. I might be guilty of that because I pay for school out of pocket. To do that, I have to work. I have to save, I have to scrimp, but we did just come back from Mexico. We did just go have that vacation. I was able to carve out enough money, manage my money well, while paying for school and while raising Levi and paying for our house and all this other stuff. We were able to carve out that money and go to Mexico. So, how poor are we actually? I like to say, I'm poor. I'm poor now. I don't have the money to go buy new camping gear and do all the other stuff I'm doing. So, I'm just using what I got, borrowing what I don't have, just making it work. Where other people that I camp with sometimes, oh, look at what I got new. Look at this. Look at that. Look at this. Look at this cool gear. And I'm like, for the next 2 years, I won't have any new gear. I'm just going to make what I got work. As a matter of fact, I have to reseal my tent from this last camping trip because not only did Derek's tent leak and all this stuff get wet, mine leaked a little bit on the edges. So I'm like, I got to re-waterproof the tent? I don't know how to. I've waterproofed seals before, but I haven't waterproofed the entire bottom of a tent before. So I got to look into how to do that. Instead of buying a new tent, I'm just going to re-waterproof this one because that's what I got. That's the position I'm in. Last night, I had to air up Jennifer's tires. So I've got an air compressor, and I bought that used, right? And it came with, the air hose and the thing to put the air in the tires, and it has a little air gauge on it and stuff. Super cool. However, the hose on that section is busted. It's not completely busted, but it's definitely wide where air comes out. And instead of I would love just to go ahead and buy a new one, but instead I sat there and I taped it all up, and then I taped it again and taped it again to where now I can use it. It's usable. You can still feel an air leak, but I can use it to get air into your tires. That kind of stuff. Make what you got work. I'm happy because I have Jennifer and Levi and all the things that we get to go do. But realistically, it would have been nice to buy it. So how rich are we? I don't know. Verse 8. The ransom of a man's life is his riches, but the poor does not hear rebuke. The breakdown. Riches deliver some from punishment, while others suffer because they will not heed the rebuke of laziness, which keeps them poor. All right, let's reread that then. The ransom of a man's life is his riches, but the poor does not hear rebuke. I'm going to be honest. Is that talking about if you get a speeding ticket, you got to have money to pay for the speeding ticket. You got to have money to pay taxes. You got to have money to go to school. You got to have money to buy food and water. It's not like we've got little streams and springs sprouting up all over the place anymore. You have to pay for water and electricity. I guess you don't need electricity, but you do need feed and water. So you got to have money to do that. The poor does not hear the rebuke. If someone, I don't like calling people out when I'm saying bad things about them, because this is an open forum, right? Anyone could see this. But I do know people that could be doing better. I hear laziness, and it's so easy to make money here in America. They'll have a decent job, but then blow all their money on toys. Legitimately grown people buying toys and stuff. So I hear the laziness, and I'm like, well, they're lazy with their money. They need to be putting it to work, saving, investing, but they don't. And that you can say, hey, you need to save, I save 25% of every dollar. I don't actually do that now. I'm gonna be completely fair with everybody. We're probably at an average of 18%, maybe 15%, because I'm in school, right? So between me and Jennifer, every dollar we make, let's say safely, I can say we save 15%. The goal is 25%. That's into our 403B, 401k, and Roth IRA. I tell that to these people that don't do that, and do they take my advice? No. Will they regret it? I hope not, but probably. If they would hear the rebuke, maybe they'd be a little bit better financially. Verse 9. The light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wicked will be put out. This image of life, prosperity, and joy is contrasted with adversity and death. So the contrast there is the light of the righteous rejoices. So what we put off is rejoice full. People will celebrate. It will be good. However, the lamp, what they're putting off of the wicked, will be put out. It'll be snuffed out, done. You're done. You're cut off. Verse 11. Wealth gained. We're in verse 10. What are we doing? Verse 10. By the pride comes nothing but strife, but with the well-advised is wisdom. To break down, the proud spurn advice from others, and the wise accept it. But the wise accept it. It's just comma. The wise accept it. The proud spurn. The pride has not take the advice, but the wise accept the advice. If you're going to someone for advice, obviously they're of worth getting advice from. If you hear the advice, take it. Verse 11. Now we're in verse 11. Wealth gained by dishonesty will be diminished, but he who gains by labor will increase. Now, this is something that I think about sometimes, because like my brother plays the lottery. I don't know if this is the right thought or not, but he'll play the lottery, and my thought is always like, he has this big list of like how he's going to set up the money and everything. It's like, Logan, you're going to get, like, if he wins like $300 million, he's like, Logan, you'll get $5 million. Other brother will get $5 million. You'll get $5. Everyone will have this money, and he's just going to end up like $100 million. So everyone can stop working, and we can all like go play and do whatever together. Now, my thought and my fear sometimes is like, will that actually make our lives better? Because we didn't earn it. We didn't put the work in for it. Will we get happiness from being more open? Because like it's like that option overload, that choice overload. Will it be too much for us? That's my fear sometimes, if we were ever to earn it. Now, obviously, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth and turn it away, because I'm not in that position to do that. But it is a thought sometimes that if you didn't earn it, will it actually make you happier? I don't know. Or better. Verse 12. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when the desire comes, it is a tree of life. Let's see the breakdown. We're back in Proverbs 3:18 specifically for this breakdown, and it's breaking down the tree of life here. This expression is a metaphor referring to the temporal and spiritual renewal and refreshment. So again, we're going to read 12. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when the desire comes, it is a tree of life. Verse 13. He who despises the word will be destroyed, but he who fears the commandment will be rewarded. Come on. You know those people that despise hearing the Bible or talking about Jesus, or even the thought of going to church. You know those people. He who despises the word will be destroyed, but he who fears the commandment will be rewarded. That makes me go, boom, I know where those people are going. And also me, make sure I fear the commandment. Make sure I know that like this is real. Like, treat it as such. Like, other people don't believe, other people take it as a joke. You need to know where it's at, and then you'll be rewarded. That's the end of that. Verse 14. The law of the wise is a fountain of life, to turn one away from the snares of death. The same Hebrew word for fountain of life, is the same Hebrew word for the well of life. See notes on 10:11. Talking about the well of life. The Lord is the source of this fountain, which then springs up in the wise man as wise speech, wise laws, the fear of the Lord, and understanding. So all of that springs up in the wise man. And it's saying the law, back in Proverbs 13:14, the law of the wise is a fountain of life, to turn one away from the snares of death. So, like, it makes me sit here and go, like, all these rules that you may or may not agree with, like, in the church, or, like, guidance of the church, like, corporate church, is that the laws of the wise? It's set there to turn you away from the snares of death. And what's worse than physical death? Spiritual death. mean, it's worth a moment just sitting there thinking about that. Are those laws or rules or guidances set there from like the church or from, what does it specifically say? The laws of wise? Are they set there to turn you away from the snares of death? Verse 15. Good understanding gains favor, but the way of the unfaithful is hard. Good understanding gains favor, but the way of the unfaithful is hard. I would agree with that. Like, the unfaithful do have it hard. Be honest. Verse 16. Every prudent man acts with knowledge, but a fool lays open his folly. Lays open is the breakdown. The language vividly shows that a fool displays folly like a peddler openly spreads out his wares for others to gaze upon. Verse 17. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a faithful ambassador brings health. A wicked messenger falls into trouble, but a faithful ambassador brings help. Beware of a wicked messenger. Identify a wicked messenger. Be on the lookout for a wicked messenger. A faithful ambassador brings health. Makes me sit there and go, who do I surround myself with? Is it a wicked messenger or a faithful ambassador? I'm going to call somebody out right now that has been nothing but a good influence on my life, and I really wish we could spend more time with them if life allowed that. Terry and Connie Easley. They're solid in their faith. They are amazing people, and they really give good advice and mentorship. Thank you for being a part of my life, being a faithful ambassador. Verse 18. Poverty will shame. I said that wrong. Verse 18. Poverty and shame will come to him who disdains correction, but he who regards a rebuke will be honored. So let's talk about that. Poverty and shame will come to him who disdains correction. What is correction? I was corrected this past week at Scout Camp. We were all the new adult leaders in the Boy Scout troop were assigned a class. We go to the class, and it's dumb, man. It's a bad class. The guy sucks at teaching. It's simple camping stuff. And it's even the stuff that, like, I did need a refresher on. They didn't do a good job of teaching it. So I was just not feeling it, and I skipped class on the second day. I was just like, I'm not doing this, okay? And I left. And then I was sitting at the campfire. I was talking to the Scoutmaster. I was like, man, dude, that was an awful class. Like, I do not need to go finish this. He's like, come on, man. Go do it. Go do it. Someone needs to have these certifications. Go get it going. And I was like, okay. So I went, but it took me complaining. I skipped part of the class. I still got certification, but it was just, I was not a cheerful servant in that situation. And then, so fast forward, I did all of that, and then they gave out like some like Troop 452 mugs. And with those mugs, the Scoutmaster didn't care who got them, and like gave them to one of the other adult leaders, and I was like, we were gonna have a little competition for them, and like do some rock, paper, scissors, or something fun for whoever wants the mugs. Well, I forgot about that, and I did some other stuff, and then later I was like, oh man, I missed the competition. Dang it. I told the Scoutmaster that, and he goes, well, I went ahead and decided to give those mugs to the people who took their class completely and without complaint. And I went, I laughed and made a joke, but I was like, that is me. I did complain, and I caused some problems, and I just wasn't the best, right? Room for growth. And I need to take that correction. I don't need to disdain the correction. I don't need to disdain him for giving me that correction. It's something I needed to hear. It was a failure point of me. It's something that I am bad about, and I would need to take that correction seriously for like next time when I'm in that same kind of situation, to cheerfully serve and cheerfully be there. And stated here, if I regard that rebuke, I will be honored eventually. Verse 19. A desire accomplished is sweet to the soul, but it is an abomination to fools to depart from evil. The breakdown. The fool's relentless pursuit of evil and hatred of good does not ever let him taste the sweet blessings of obedience. I'm learning this. So, I'm a newer Christian. Obedience is so nice and so sweet. Just giving in, not trying to fight, not trying to make up excuses or reasons to not do it exactly as it is written. Like, oh, well, maybe. No. Just be obedient. Just listen. There's a sweet something to it. A sweet mercy, grace. I don't know what it is. But it really is something. It really is nice. Verse 20. He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. Let's see what the breakdown. I have feelings, but let's see what the breakdown is. This speaks of the power of association to shape character. This speaks to the power of association to shape character. Who do you associate with? It pains me, but sometimes I think you outgrow people in your life. I think that you need good influences. And like Terry and Connie, and like that Scoutmaster, and like my friend Derek, I think these are people that are good influences on me and something that I need to strive to. They're smart, they're compassionate, they're accomplished, and I have a lot to learn from them. Now, something that I don't know is when do I move from that, I think you're always learning. So, when do you move from that mentee to mentor situation? I don't know. I am definitely learning, and I am definitely being mentored inadvertently. But I think it's important to remind ourselves of who we associate with and who we put ourselves and who we let in our lives. And sometimes you do have to go ahead and weed that garden. You have to go take out the bad stuff. You can't just let it sit there and fester and grow and stay around and mess up the crops and take growth away from good crops. You can't do that. That's hard, especially with friends. Verse 21, evil pursues sinners, but to the righteous good shall be repaid. Another promise of God right there. The breakdown. This is a basic theme and general principle throughout Proverbs and is illustrated throughout the Old Testament, which establishes that righteousness brings divine blessing and evil brings divine cursing. I think that's going to be our Bible verse for the day. Ding, ding, ding. Proverbs 13, verse 21. Evil pursues sinners, but to the righteous good shall be repaid. I gotta write that down. I make sure I keep it, guys. Eventually, I'll actually start remembering all these Bible verses. Eventually. Verse 22. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Ooh, interesting. The breakdown. While good men's estates remain with their families, the wealth of the wicked does not. In the providence of God, it will ultimately belong to the righteous. That is something that we need either to strive for, or is that a promise, or something that's just going to happen? A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. It's important to me. I hear that and I go, okay, it's important for me to leave something to my kids as a foundation for them. But the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. Is it a something to strive for? Is it something to do? Or is it a promise? Is it a little bit of both? I'm not sure, but I like it. Verse 23. Much food is the fallow ground of the poor, and for lack of justice there is waste. What's the breakdown? The contrast here is between the poor, but the industrious man who will be rewarded with provisions from his effort, and the rich man whose efforts are brought to ruin by his deeds of injustice. What? Much food is the fallow ground of the poor. Fallow being Fallow, fallow ground of the poor, and for lack of justice there is waste. Yeah, I figure that one out. I don't know. Fallow ground is ground that's been plowed and readied for sowing, but then is withheld and allowed to lie useless and unproductive. So it's ground that is ready to be sowed with seed, but then is allowed to just die and lie useless and unproductive. So knowing that, it says, Much food is in. Oh, much food is in the fallow ground, the ground that hasn't been used properly, of the poor. Oh, okay. It's saying that this ground that you haven't done anything with, there is much food in that ground. If you're sitting there, it's like saying you have acres and acres of land that you haven't used. You have so much potential that you haven't used, and there's so much reward in that potential, but you haven't done it. You haven't done anything with it. Okay, I get that part of the verse. And then it says, and for lack of justice, there is waste. And for lack of justice, there is waste. What does that mean? Oh, the breakdown is only breaking down lack of justice. So let's reread that. The contrast here is between the poor, but the industrious man, who will be rewarded with provisions from his efforts, and the rich man whose efforts are brought to him to ruin by his deeds of injustice. So the rich man is brought to ruin by deeds of injustice. Okay. The lack of justice. In deeds of injustice, there is waste. Got it. Whew, that's a tough one right there, boys. That is rough. But rough refiguring it out in my brain. Like learning is tough. Learning is painful. Learning is hard on the brain. You have to break down structures and rebuild them. That's what we're doing this morning. Verse 24. He who spares his rod hates his son, but who loves him disciplines him promptly. Now, I like reading that because, I feel like you always hear the joke, don't spare the rod, don't spare the rod. But that's not the whole verse. The whole verse here in Proverbs 13:24, he who spares the rod hates his son. Don't hate your son. But the second part, the part that's still literally in the same verse, like, you don't take verses out of context, but you also don't take half of the verse. The second part of that is, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly. This Bible was written, 2,000 years ago? We're actually BC. We're Proverbs, right? So more than that. It says disciplines him promptly. Why is that important? So we're in 2023. So I would 10 years ago, I took a psychology course. In that course, it talks about discipline and how to properly use discipline or punishment. It took thousands of years for us to have research to back up this statement, okay? Doesn't make the statement any less true when it was written, okay, when it was given by inspiration by God, but now we have research to back it up that there is a reason that discipline should be done prompt. It should be, if you were trying to get people not to do murder, it should be prompt, it should be severe, and it should be something else. I think there's 4 tenets of good discipline, but one of them is doing it right now. If you commit a crime or you do something that's against the rules, your discipline needs to be right now. If you see someone that perfectly with kids, a kid's call someone, hey, you butt face, jump on them right then. Don't talk to people like that. That's not nice. Okay. If you wait a week and you say, hey, remember when you call that dude a butthole? Maybe. The relationship in the brain isn't there as closely. So the sooner you hit the discipline mark to whatever they did wrong, you can make that relationship a lot stronger, more effective, and with less severe discipline. So just getting on someone promptly, you don't have to be as severe to have the same results that you would if you do it promptly, right? You don't have to whoop your kid if you get on them right then and there on calling someone a butthole. But if you wait a week, you might have to make it a little bit more severe to make the brain kick into gear. I'm not a psychologist, but there is research that backs that up, and maybe a more educated way of saying it, but it's so true and so real, and it's right here in this Bible. And to think, I carried this Bible for years and years and years, going to church with my dad and never even read it. I didn't read any of it. I maybe read a little bit here and there, saw the verses on the wall, but I never got into it. And I had this very verse in my hand the entire time. Wild. And here we are already at the last verse, verse 25 of Proverbs 13. The righteous eats to the satisfying of his soul, but the stomach of the wicked shall be in want. The breakdown. This states more directly the teaching of verses 13, 18, and 21. The righteousness eats to the satisfying of the soul, but the stomach of the wicked shall be in want. Now, I do need to go back and read the breakdown for verse 24. I kind of got off on a little tangent. in verse 24 is that he who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly. There's a large breakdown on this. Early childhood teaching requires both parental discipline, including corporal punishment, and balanced kindness and love. There is great hope that the use of the divine ordinance of the rod will produce godly virtue and parental joy. Such discipline must have the right motivation and appropriate severity. One who has genuine affection for his child but withholds corporal punishment will produce the same kind of child as a parent who hates his offspring. You can't, I guess their breakdown is saying, don't withhold the rod. You also don't withhold the rod, but also give loving kindness. So, like, I'm sure there's parents out there who beat their. I know there's parents out there who beat their child. I worked at a children's hospital. Don't beat your child. Don't beat them. Don't beat them hard. Like, don't beat them for no reason. Don't beat them. But you do have to punish them, and sometimes that does require the rod. So, like, this verse is trying to say, hey, those who don't use the rod, you need to use it, and those who use it too much, you need to cut that back. There is a middle ground, and you have to find that. You have to find that middle ground through prayer and Bible and good advisement from those who believe in Jesus and know the Bible well. And that's Proverbs 13. Thank y'all so much for joining me in this Bible study. I hope you got something out of it. Do me a favor. Share it with a friend. Move it out there. I want people to find this. Like, I actually haven't even told any of my friends or family. Like, I've told, like, my brother, but I haven't told a bunch of people because this is kind of like our thing. If you know someone that would enjoy this, share it with them. But I don't want this to be like a thing that everybody knows about. I want this to be like kind of like, not like a secret thing, but like a thing if you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? I don't want this to be, I don't want to take any advertisements or publicize it. I just want this to, if you enjoy this, share it with people who will also enjoy this. That's what I want. And if you want that, share it with somebody. If you don't like it, don't worry about it. That's cool. I want you to want to share this. I'll see you next time here on the Mormon Bible Study. Thank you so much for your time. Logan McCulley is out.